Today I have a new RC airplane to look at. So it is this Arrows RC Tecnam 2010. It's a 1450mm 3S RC airplane. So I've just mounted floats right now because they are included, and I want to see how this one flies. So let's go outside and get this one up in the air. Release the takeoff.
Flaps up.
Just engaged half flaps for that takeoff. I have a 3S 2200 milliamp battery inside, so let's start with some inverted flying. I mean, it handles okay. Feels yeah, well, a little bit like flying kind of the Turbo Tim Revolution inverted. So I do have to push it like maybe 80%. Almost no wind today, so really favorable conditions then to fly this plane. What I found then, when you have kind of a float planes, inverted flying usually just works fantastic. I mean, certainly if you have the most planes then they are already overpowered, so the kind of a slight added weight then from floats doesn't really matter. This plane feels really gentle when you fly it. I did increase then just elevator authority on this plane, just because I think it looked really kind of limited in the stock configuration, and I don't feel that it's over controlled, so I guess that was a good call then just to increase it. It's going for a touch and go.
Time remaining 4 minutes. Frame velocity 8. Hold 0.
Really easy just to slow it down, and it just takes off almost immediately then with full flaps. Another direction landing then. A little bit bouncing, but still a rather smooth landing then also.
Frame losses 12. Hold 0.
I mean, just this, just increase throttle a little bit and just use elevator. It goes up in the air just straight away. And this is a lightweight RC airplane. I think the weight then is around 1.4 kilos with floats. And for a almost 1500mm plane, I think that's a really good weight. And speaking of orientation, I mean, I really don't dig when you have too much white now on the plane. Now this plane is a little bit more visible just with the floats, and it's a little bit larger than 1.2 plane. So far no problem, just orientated, but I would wish that this plane would have some great orientation markers in a more contrasty color than opposed to these green stickers. Really, even on 3S and this size, and in a way kind of reminds me of the Pandora then from Motion RC. There was a 3S in stock configuration, but I did 4S on it. I think that, I mean, the Pandora handled just great on 3S despite the size. Felt really lightweight, and this is no difference. I think it's maybe not as fast and as the Pandora when it comes to roll and such, but still really maneuverable even on 3S. In 3S it's much cheaper than with 3S batteries compared to 4S batteries, so I think it's always nice when they at least give you the option to do 3S. And this, just according to the manual, this is a 3S only plane. But surely 4S would be fine, I suppose, or just interesting at least to try further on. Really straight and gentle flying plane. So I mean, if you want to do like crazy aggressive aerobatics, I mean, I don't think that this is the plane you would purchase. It's kind of a in the middle because it flies good, but surely it's not as exciting as some other planes then, and still it's just really well controlled. I mean, nice big loops. It's not over controlled, and yet you have enough control authority just to go through things and do whatever you like.
Landing flaps.
So the LED lights then only on the wingtips, green and red. I think that they could really have put on in some sort of front-facing light. That would be a great addition. And as usual, when you have these lights, it's kind of a gimmicky when if you fly again in daylight, because they don't help you to orientate the plane. But then if you go like in lower light, I would also really like kind of at least a headlight. So for takeoff then I think half flaps, for landing full flats, that is a really good combination. Timer's up.
Flaps up.
So let's go inside then and talk a little bit more about this Tecnam 2010. It's a good plane overall, not the best, but still fun to fly. I think that this plane is a little bit interesting and also confusing. First off, it is a kind of a fresh and newly RC plane just to have. I don't think there are many Tecnam 2010 RC planes out there. So it's molded after a real RC plane that is made 2010. That's why it's called 2010, I guess. And this is a 3S RC plane. So 3S in a kind of a almost 1.5 meter wingspan. I think it's kind of odd. And if I look at the speed controller side, because if you have look in the manual, it says this plane comes with a 30 amp speed controller and it's supposed to do 3S and 3S only. If you look at the speed controller that mine came with, it was a 40 amp and it is 3S and 4S compatible. The speed controller also supports reverse thrust, but there's nothing mentioned in the manual, so it's kind of odd really. And if I look at the motor inside of this RC plane, I believe it's the same motor that it's in the Arrows RC Bigfoot, and I run the Bigfoot on 4S no problems. So I will certainly just do 4S and try it on the future flight, because even though this plane flies really well on 3S, and it is actually quite lightweight, because if you compare this one to a similar size plane like the Turbo Team Revolution, the Turbo Team Revolution is around 600 grams heavier than this RC plane, or about. So I mean, that means that if you have almost the same wing area and it is like 600 grams lighter, it is a really good thing. You have like LED lights on the wingtips. I think that this is kind of a poor light setup, because I should really like to have seen kind of a nose light or a tail light and the light underneath. I mean, the lights on the wing, they are good, but for orientation, I think that a nose light is really a good thing. You have kind of a scale details, these antennas, 2 on the top and then also 1 on the bottom. And these floats, they are more or less, or they are exactly the same floats as you get with most FMS RC planes. So I believe even kind of the E-Flight Mall and the FMS Mall, the FMS Ranger, Super Ease, I mean, kind of a generic, I don't know if these are a little bit longer maybe, but they are just almost exactly as the FMS ones. You have a water servo inside and a rudder. You run a cable just to split the kind of a rudder channel. And the assembly of this plane is quite easy. I mean, you have a lot of cables just for the lights, flaps, and ailerons. So it is a little bit messy inside. And this is a really huge hatch and a huge place just to put a battery. And I've swapped the speed controller in mine to an Avian 45 amp, just because even though this plane features a reverse thrust speed controller, and it does also feature kind of it's mounted over here, Arrows kind of vector stabilizer system. It was just too messy just to deal with, so I just opted to put in a Spectrum AR637T receiver inside, and that also made it possible just to have kind of a reverse thrust then without occupying a channel. So that's just the way I did it. And you also have kind of a big hole where the battery goes just to access the nose gear servo. But I really have no problems with it, because if you just put the battery like straight on top of this hole then and just use the straps, it is all balanced. But as I said, it is a little bit messy when it comes to cables. So I wish that this plane would have kind of a quick releases or quick connectors inside the wing just for all the cables. That would be just fantastic. So the wing then 4 bolts to screw it on, and then you have also the tail section. I think there is kind of a 1 screw just for the tail section, and the floats then is more or less just to mount any FMS floats set. And if you do, which I will do further on, mount a nose light, nose gear, then you just have to put it in the front. So, I mean, overall, a great flying RC plane. It's not really a too exciting paint job or just sticker job on this plane. So I think that they could have made this one looking so much more interesting in another colors and so. And just the cabling is a little bit interesting. And also the thing that there's no mention of the reverse thrust or 3S or 4S compatibility, just 3S. So it's a little bit of an odd RC plane, and in my experience also I have tried so many Arrows RC planes, and many of them I suspect should really fly on 4S, but the manual then mentioned 3S. So I don't know if that's kind of a marketing thing, because if you have a 3S RC plane, it is much cheaper to purchase the batteries. But I think this plane would probably, as most other RC planes in this side, just benefit a lot with the 4S battery. So I will certainly just come back to this Tecnam 2010 then and do 4S and see what it's all about, because it is a good plane. So I just want to experience something more with this RC plane and just share my findings. So for now, a good plane, but it does is a little bit strange in my opinion.